This episode brought to you by Superman 64. If you like shitty controls, graphics, and general gameplay, have we got the game for you?
This is Hot Drop, where we bring you premier gaming analysis and freshly baked drops. I'm Dano.
I'm Cody.
And I'm John. Let's get into it. We are Hot Drop purveyors of the finest podcast contest?
Yeah. It's a contest. God damn it, who put a question mark on the teleprompter?
We are Hot Drop, purveyors of the finest podcast content this side of the Appalachian. You might know us from the very feed you are listening to, where we talked about PUBG and other games for the last few years. If you're new to the show, we also have other podcasts, Dive, featuring variety banter and researched informational learnings, and the Tarkov Escape Pod, where Dan spends way too fucking long piecing together audio bits.
We also have a Discord where you can hang out with mature, like-minded gamers, or just be notified that we're going live on Twitch, which is every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, this side of the Appalachian, at twitch.tv/the_hotdrop. Rip Mixer.
We also have one of the hottest things that no other podcast out there is doing these days. It's the Hot Drop Hotline, 508-216-0006. Call us, have your voice on the show, ask us questions, and just be yourself. Be your beautiful self. We are kicking off a brand new chapter of the show where we discuss the game that we are all into right now called Showdown, aka Shunt Hoedown. And we're excited to introduce you to it, and hopefully you will fork over 27 some odd dollars and give us a new friend to play with. So guys, what is this game? What is the game that has taken us by the gonads? It's called Shunt Hoedown, but what is it?
Who can explain this better? Because I don't know what multiplayer PvPvE is. A little confusing for amateur gamers, but it's got elements of the game PUBG, and it's got elements of like any kind of like first-person Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah, so PvPvE means that it's player versus everything. That's what it stands for. So there's multiple people, actual players on a server competing for basically one goal in this case. So you're fighting AI monsters, and you're also fighting actual players at the same time.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, there's a bunch of different elements. Like, you've got the regular PvP. So, like, everyone knows, right? Like, almost every multiplayer game out there, you're just fighting other players. And that's fun, but that's not the point. And that's one of the reasons why I think we like it so much, is the point of the game is not actually to kill everyone on the map. It's to track a very specific monster via clues, kill that monster, collect the bounty that it drops, and then extract. And so along the way, you're fighting anywhere from, I guess, 1 to 12 other players. Is that an accurate statement? I think at max, you can have about 12 people in the game, including yourself. And so the idea is that those players are also doing the same thing that you're doing. So you might meet them along the way as you're gathering up clues on the way to the monster, or you just might meet them at the monster. You might never see them at all. And that's the joy of it. Like, you don't necessarily have to kill every single person to win.
And I think the thing this game does really well is it takes a really simple concept like track a monster, kill the monster, collect the bounties, and extract, and builds upon that, adds dimensions and complexities within it. Like, as you're collecting the clues to track the monster, the clues will change colors if there is an enemy player nearby it, thereby alerting you. Or when you get close to where the monster den is, it'll flash an icon on your screen when you're in dark vision mode, which is how you find clues, that can also alert you of players based on the sound of the whispering or the icon flashing a different color. So there's a bunch of really cool kind of like learnings where you can make the game kind of work for you as you learn it.
Yeah, and I think the setting is a major appeal for me. The setting of it being very old-timey. It is in the Deep South is what I would assume, right? In the late 1800s in the Deep South. And so I would assume you're kind of a wraith, right? There is lore behind this, and you can look up there's a library inside of this game where you can read up on a lot of the lore and what monsters there are and what ghouls there are, whatever they're calling them. But I think that's a big play for me because I'm not walking around with an M16. I'm walking around with a revolver and a Springfield rifle, and I think that is one of the things that adds to how amazing the combat in this game is.
And that's interesting too that you say that, because most games we have now, like, what the weapons are, like, what an MP5 is, what an M4 is, how those guns operate, how to control them for the most part. But you're playing with guns that you've probably never heard of, that behave in ways that you might not expect, like how some of them reload in different ways, like with stripper clips, or like pistols that if you don't shoot every round, you're reloading it individually. You've got breech loading shotguns, you've got lever action rifles, you've got chain pistols that are better or worse depending on the perks that you select. Like, there's a lot of learning that you have to do just to understand how the weapons operate, and I think that's exciting and fun for me because it's not just the same old Modern Warfare style game. And style of weapons.
So talking about like the enemies, I don't think we ever really said it. Cody said ghouls, but they're the basic enemies are zombie ghoulish things. They can have small little weapons like knives or torches, but they're basically just melee guys who get attracted to you and will swarm given the chance. There are kind of those special zombies, Hive, what's the fire dude? We always call it the fire dude.
The fire dude. Immolators.
Immolator. Yeah.
The meaty boys.
Heads. Yeah.
We have nicknames for all of them.
So like the Hive that releases a swarm of bugs that eat at you and poison you, and the fire dude will like wail on a dude and light him on fire. And they're good ways to kill each of these monsters, and the details of that aren't the interesting part. It's that you layer all these things on top of each other, and it makes for a very dynamic game. Like, normal grunt zombies don't matter until you're in on one-on-one duels with somebody.
That is my demise most of the time. That gets the shriek.
Totally.
It's 6 grunts after I turn a corner, and Dan's looting somewhere, and John decided to go west, and I heard east, so I went east. And we're just totally separated. I run into 6 people. I'm not good at the game.
To be fair, you said Weast. So
to be fair, Weast did happen, and then I sang, "I should have been a cowboy."
No, it was "Go West, Young Man," but you're really saying that every single time we say
the same song.
Cardinal direction.
Yeah, "Go West, Young Dan." That's what you've been told.
So the trouble happens is like you peek somebody and you get attacked by a zombie from behind.
That's the worst.
It's not a problem to get attacked by a zombie in a normal situation, but if it hits you, it'll lag your dude. It'll throw off your aim. You'll be lower HP, so when the guy shoots you, you will most likely go down from it. It just adds so much to it to have these elements, and they're attracted to sound. So once you start a gunfight, it's likely that people will start approaching you.
It's straight up Walking Dead in those situations. So there is a place on the map called the Prison, and that tends to be where we get into a lot of trouble with both the grunts and other people a lot of the time. And if you can walk up, say you're in this, you haven't run into anybody yet, you got your loadouts, you know where a clue is, you go up to this clue, somebody's already there, you fire a shot, you could attract other grunts to your area while you're in the middle of this firefight, and you have to risk setting off different traps. You have to risk stepping on branches, setting off, alerting crows and horses and stuff, so they'll make a lot of noise. It just makes it so chaotic, and the sound in this game is unreal, especially if you have 7.1. And it can be genuinely scary sometimes because of like the intensity of these firefights, or not knowing if somebody else is around.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, and to be clear, if you play this solo, I meant to say, if you play this just by yourself, it's a horror game. Like, it's scary. Like, this is not a walk in the park type game. I mean, you're very much going to be crouching in the shadows, sometimes at night, little visibility, very thick vegetation, hard to see people. The lighting mechanics of the game are really, really good. Like whatever engine this game runs on, I think it's CryEngine. Fantastic lighting, which really adds to it. The sound is incredible. It's scary. Like it's not. It's like a horror game, straight up.
It gets my heart pumping pretty fast sometimes. Not necessarily always in the firefights, though. I get like the in-game shakes sometimes during a really good firefight. It's when you're fighting other monsters where I get the real rush.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Especially when you're getting into the bosses and they're more difficult, and say like we've had a bad start to a game. Say we got into one fight and one of us went down already, and then like one of us got a chunk of our health burned out, and that goes away too. For those of you who haven't played the game, if you get burned bad enough or poisoned bad enough, you will lose part of your health, and you can either use sometimes you can use your own bandages to heal yourself, but sometimes, especially with fire, it's just totally burned out, and then you're down, and that makes you a one-hit pretty much a liability for your team. Because you only have 150 HP, and that can be broken up into segments of 75, 50, or 25, right? Or 75 and 25.
Yep, 75. I think
and
so.
25.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, 75 and 25. So realistically, you can have 3 75s or any combination that leads to 150. But if you lose one of those chunks, you're with any of the higher powered weapons, you're down to a one hit, and then you can only die as many times as you have bars.
Right.
And it becomes pretty difficult when you have to make decisions on whether to go for a second bounty or get out or run into and just run and gun or stay back and wait. It's really strategic and tactical at times.
We were both wrong, by the way. It's 50 and 25.
Okay,
yeah.
50 and 25.
Just because people are gonna say something like we suck at math, which is
I do suck at math.
Not,
like I didn't even
wrong. I
know that 75 times 3 is not 150, and I still said it anyway.
And I agreed with you anyway, just to move the show along. Anyway. So why should people be playing this game? Like, why do we love it so much? Why do we want other people to join in on that love?
My personal opinion and first instinct is that there aren't many games out there right now that haven't been played to death that give you a rush when you are playing it, especially with other people. There is a mix of social with this where you're running around and just chatting and having a good time. And then the second somebody makes contact, you tell everyone to shut up and you just go, head first into a fight. And it is unmatched by anything we've played in a long time. When we were playing PUBG, those top 10 situations were awesome. But in this game, everything seems like a top 10 situation every time you get into a fight.
Yeah.
Technically it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. With a number of players.
At most there's 12, so like it's you 3 against everybody else, and so I don't know. It just like my blood starts pumping really fast when we make contact with people, and the fights are never. Very rarely do we get wiped super quickly. Very rarely do you get into a fight and it doesn't last at least 2 to 5 minutes.
I think one of the reasons why we don't get wiped early or decide to quit out, go back to lobby, restart, is because there's not a tick down timer when someone is downed. Right. So if I go down, you guys can take all the time in the world to come get me unless the enemy team starts to burn my body, which is a very cool mechanic because it doesn't force you into a situation where your teammate is screaming at you to come pick them up because their timer is almost out, putting you at a disadvantage or a disadvantageous position to help your teammate. Instead, you can prolong the firefight as long as you want. And I think that is a really great mechanic that I don't see many other games doing.
I agree.
That was my favorite thing from PUBG, though, is like pretending to be the other guy shouting at his teammate to come pick him up.
On the other end, it's fantastic.
But yeah, I think it's really helpful. It gives you space to kind of play a little bit more strategically or play your own game. So if you're not the type to, brave the middle of a field to try and revive your teammate, you can try and take down the other team and then do revives.
Yeah. There have been times where the other day we were playing around where we were near a bridge and I was trying to cross to engage in the firefight. John had already crossed and Dan was hanging out in the back. And I'm pretty sure you were being a loot goblin at first.
Oh, there was a restock right there. Of course,
there was a restock right there, but then you were fighting from across the bridge. And both John went down twice and Dan was down. And so instead of trying to fight these guys, because they came out of nowhere, we were fighting somebody else. They got killed, or they killed us, and then they got killed by another team. I wasn't about to fight all three of them.
Yeah.
I just stayed under the bridge until they left. And I didn't feel bad about that, because if you lose your character, you lose everything that they held. And one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is that the characters that you get in this game have identities, and they have pre-planned loadouts, and they come in tiers of 3. So you can get a free person that has pretty low end gear and no attributes that are helpful to them. But you earn them every time you win. So you can go from a level 1 to a level 50. You can retire that person at level 50 and then get some, blood bucks or whatever they're called, hunt dollars, or I don't even know what the currency is anymore. But it's like a shroot buck is what it is. It's like a shroot buck.
Doesn't really have any value.
But that's how you purchase your loadouts every time, and you can level up. But if you have won 2 in a row, 3 in a row, you're in the high 30s, high 40s, depending on how good your games were. And so that changes your mentality when you're playing. Is it worth it to go in here when, I'm down 2 bars, John's already just died, I got to go and get him. Let's wait for these guys to leave, and then we can just get out of here and keep our characters. And with those characters, you will earn better weapons. You will earn the ability to fan your weapon instead of a slow revolver shot, or you can keep yourself in ADS instead of having to reload away from that, because it saves you time and it makes you a more efficient player. And I honestly, when you put all of these things together in this game, it's almost a perfect game.
I'm having a hard time because there's so many things that I want to talk about, and I assume that the audience knows already, but that's not the case. We have to dive into perks, we have to dive into weapons, we have to dive into the enemies. We have to cover everything because there's a lot to talk about. And sorry, John, I just cut you off. Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I want to talk about the account thing that Cody was mentioning, and then we can talk about the weapons, because I think those are really cool aspects.
Yeah, let's do it.
But basically, you have an account level. When you start the game, it starts at 0 or 1, I'm not sure. But then you unlock weapons, tactical items like, dynamite sticks or fire bombs, that kind of thing. And again, this is 1800s era stuff. So it's all pretty rickety or old-timey things. So as you level your character, as Cody mentioned, you can retire that character at level 50 to gain points on this account level. So it basically helps you level up your account faster. When you're at 100, you've unlocked everything that you can from just the account levels. You also have mods, different versions of weapons or tools that can be unlocked based on how much you use that item. So let's say you have a gun that you use a lot, you can get a scope for that weapon. If you use it, if you get some amount of experience with it. Yeah. So you have hunt dollars, which you use to buy characters to pull into maps, or the guns, the equipment, all that stuff. And you have blood bonds, which is kind of an overarching thing that you can use to purchase legendary stuff from the store. And it's not any better, it's just skins for things. So
it just makes it cool looking.
Yeah, exactly. So if you use a gun a lot, then you can buy a legendary version of that. And instead, in the store, when you're buying that gun, you have a choice to buy the skinned version of it versus the normal one.
Yeah.
And then you get, based on how well you do within a round, you get experience, and those points change into, I can't remember what they're called, blood points or something like that. And those
they're
the points that you use on the character to buy the perks, or
if you traits.
Yeah, so you buy the upgrades with these points, and you also use them to refill those burned out health bars that Cody was talking about earlier. So if you come out of the level with only 3 health bars, you spend 1 or 2 points to refill your health bar, and then the rest of that pool you can use for perks or traits. So that's kind of the overview of the administrative side of the game.
Yeah. The customization in it is pretty cool. It's just enough. It's just enough customization for you to not get lost in it, but really wet your whistle and go, yeah, that's really satisfying.
I never don't buy a character because of the traits they have or are missing. It's more about like, oh, that's a nice bonus, you know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the traits actually do good things. I mean, they're worth buying. They're worth modifying your character in a way that you like to play. So, for example, if I'm someone who really likes single action revolvers, and for those who don't know, a single action revolver means that every time you shoot it, you have to cock the hammer back again. And so you can imagine in your days of playing a lot of Call of Duty, almost everything is semi-auto. Though that's not the case here. So your shots take a very long time to cycle. So you're shooting and then you're cocking the hammer back and you're shooting again. There's a trait that you can use to fan the hammer. So that means you can shoot really quickly with that pistol at the expense of accuracy. But if that's someone... And hearing, yep. And visibility, too, because there's smoke. I mean, we're talking the days of where they didn't have smokeless gunpowder yet. So when you shoot, there's a cloud of smoke that balloons in front of your face and obscures your vision. So if I'm someone who really likes to get up close and personal, I use that chain pistol that has something like 18 shots on it on a belt-fed magazine. I don't even know what you'd call that. But if I'm someone who likes that playstyle, I would go for that trait, make it so I can shoot that gun really quickly. If I'm someone who instead likes to use snipers, and I'm someone who likes to stay in ADS, like Cody mentioned, after my shot, I can go with that route. If I'm someone who just likes to help my teammate out, if I like to stay back a little bit, I can have someone who picks up extra tools every single time I open a container on the map, a lootable item on the map, or I can drop ammo boxes, or I can shoot or throw grenades a little bit farther than the average person does without that trait. So there's a lot of customization options, but it's never too much, and they're never overpowered in the sense that if I get this one, I feel like I have a power over everyone else on the map and they can't touch me. Like, they're very balanced in that sense.
I feel like it is one of the most balanced games I've ever played for being something that not a lot of people know about, because we've played a lot of big games, right? Like we've played PUBG, we've played Call of Duty, we've played Apex, we even tried Fortnite,
Minecraft.
Those games have balance issues, and they're doing a lot.
Especially Minecraft.
Often that changes the balance of those significantly, and almost too much so you can't get used to it. But they're so fast paced. I guess that's an inaccurate statement. However, this game, since we've been playing it, it's been a few months now. They've come out with only 2 updates, and the balances of the weapons have been only improvements.
There have been changes, which I like to see, but they haven't changed them in the sense where it totally throws off how the game is played or disrupts how I want to play the game.
I don't think I've been disappointed by either of the updates. Nothing about it goes, oh, well, that's dumb, I don't like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we should talk about some of those updates, because I want to go over some of the, maybe not go through patch notes necessarily, but talk about the big things that we think people need to know about.
Let's just, for instance, these upgrades, because when we played it, there was certain risk factors when you were losing health. You can either be poisoned, bleeding, or on fire. You can take fall damage too, so I guess that's more like a broken leg. But they changed those mechanics a little bit by balancing out the throwables. And so in this game, you have a lot of different throwables, probably close to 20, right?
A lot.
I would assume so.
Smoke bomb, flash bomb.
If you break them into their categories, they're kind of like 5 or 6, but then they have different variations.
Of those things. Yeah. So you have like a variation on Molotovs, and there are 3 or 4 of those, and there are dynamite sticks at 3 different levels, and there are poison bombs, and there are bug bombs, and there are concertina wire bombs and flash bombs, and there's just a lot of different things here. But they can damage you pretty well. And before, they could almost instantly kill you with some of the bigger ones. But now what they've changed it to is, instead of like pretty much killing you if you're on the outskirts, they've changed it so it'll take a chunk away, or if you're burned, it intensifies the burning at a faster pace. So instead of taking down a full chunk right away, you'll start off burning at a certain level, light, medium, or heavy, and then it will immediately take away your thing if you let it go for a certain amount of seconds. So if I catch a flame, I start off burning lightly, and I could save myself if I put it out. But if I don't, after 3 or 5 seconds, it intensifies to medium burning, which means I have less time to do that at a higher chance of losing a health bar. And then it's intense burning after like 5 or 7 seconds, and then you're automatically guaranteed to lose about half of your life. And it's hard to get those things back. And the same thing happens with poison and bleeding, depending on what throwable you've been affected by or what melee weapon you've been affected by.
It also means stacking throwables is more viable now. So if you have a teammate who throws a Molotov at the same time, or they're called firebombs in the game, if you both throw firebombs at the same time, then it affects the person more because it'll bump it up from medium to intense like right away.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's the actual mechanic, but something along those lines. Like it has more of an impact. One thing that they recently changed, which you kind of touched on, was the frag bomb. Has such a huge explosion radius.
Oh my god.
Before the patch, we were dying from it like so far away. We would hear somebody throw it. They wouldn't even cook it. It would land at our feet. We would run as far as we could, and we'd still die from it. Yeah. Like it's a huge range.
And these frags aren't the frags you're thinking of either. These frags are like the old school World War I frags, where like you pull the thing on the top, or you pop the thing on the top, and it's on a stick.
It's on a stick. Throw this,
it's like a hot dog on a stick that blows up.
Yeah, but the patch changed it so that on the very outskirts of the damage radius, it won't actually kill you. So like, let's say the range is 40 meters. So maybe at like 35, it won't kill you. It'll just do severe damage plus a bleed. So if you leave it alone, you will die. You're still in big trouble if you get hit by the outer rim of it, but it just gives you that little extra chance. If you're just barely out of it, then it'll let you live for a bit.
Yeah, they basically nerfed it to the point where it should be. Like, it was definitely slightly broken and overpowered, I think, to instant kill and the radius.
I don't think people noticed it as much until everyone kind of caught on. But that's the same with every game, right? If people realize something's a little bit OP, and I don't think it was an unstoppable thing, because you could get away, but the reason we were dying is because you would think you were far enough away logically,
right? Because
everything else blew up within that reasonable radius that we had in our mind.
Yeah. And they fixed it, and it balanced out really well. And then what they took from the other, I think they realized that people were getting killed by grunts far too often, or the meat boys, which are these big, like, headless, bloated, butcher-looking guys with slugs that are their sensors. Like, these slugs crawl around on the ground, and if you get poisoned by them, the meaty boy knows where you are, and he'll hurt you. He'll hurt you real bad.
Damage. Super tanky, super big damage.
And I think that people were bleeding too much to that than they were anything else.
I noticed
that's what I found.
Yeah, the grunts with the knives,
the torches.
Yeah, and the torches. Like, if they hit you now, it's not an instant you're on fire or you're bleeding. And it's not heavy bleeding like it used to be.
What we had said before is, like, they're easy in 1 or 2, right? But once you get past 2, it becomes more difficult. And once you get to 4, you will run out of stamina, which is your melee, or your well, it is your melee, but you can also only run for a certain amount of time before you have to catch your breath. And in this, if you run into 4 people and you've got a knife in your hand and you stab 3, you're almost guaranteed to be out of stamina if you hit anything that's bigger than a normal zombie. And that's when you start to get overwhelmed and you have to try and run away, or your friends have to come and help you.
Yeah, and we're talking about using melee. Like, why don't you use your guns? Well, for a couple of reasons. They're loud. People can hear them from pretty far away, and it also attracts other zombies. And the other reason is because of limited ammo. Lots of weapons only come with, in the teens worth of total ammo capacity. And there are ammo boxes. There are ways to get that ammo back. But if you shoot a full, your whole gun worth of ammo against a group of zombies, and the team hears that and rolls up on you while you're reloading, because they have pretty accurate reload times, you're gonna get down pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. And it's harder when you know that the resources are scarce to reload because you know where things are. You can see reload stations, which are just covered wagons that have been like tipped over or burnt out. And you can go up and there's health packs there. There's a consumable box and there are ammo boxes. And when you go, if you go to one ammo box, you'll probably only fill up a quarter of what you're missing. And so you can only loot them once yourself, twice per team. And so if you run out and there's 4 there, you know, you're not going to get your full loadout back if you've been trying to kill everything you see with a gun. Melee weapons are big in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And those are scattered around the map too. You can pick up hammers, axes, pitchforks, shovels.
One of the really ingenious things about this game is that different weapons have different effects on certain grunts or bosses.
Yes.
So there is the Immolator, who is like Inferno Man. He's just a zombie on fire. And he does not react well to bullets or sharp objects. He'll just kind of blow up. He'll go Super Saiyan, and then you're screwed because he burns pretty bad.
And makes a big noise. It's an explosive.
Oh my god!
Again, attracting people and zombies.
Yeah, and if you hit him with a sledgehammer or brass knuckles, you're in a much better place because he won't explode, but you have to hit him a couple times because he'll keep coming at you, and you have to time it correctly to hit him. And then when it comes to the bosses, there's a spider, an assassin, and a butcher, and they all have different strengths and weaknesses that you have to approach differently in order to kill them on time. And they're pretty meaty sometimes. Like, they are resilient monsters. And so it's not always as easy to kill them as you would hope. Unless you have a sticky bomb, then 2 of them are fairly easy if you can hit them.
Yep. Yeah, for example, the assassin is weak to poison. So that's one of the things that we haven't tried, but I recently learned about. That's one of the tips that we can probably get into a little bit later on, but it's something that you got to know when you go in to kill those bosses, because if you can kill them very quickly, you're at a huge advantage to everyone else around. Because again, like, let's step back. Like, the whole goal of this game, and we're getting into the nitty gritty here about how to use different things, but the whole goal of this game is to go in, find the boss's lair, kill the boss, and get out with the token that it drops. Everyone else on the map is doing the same thing, and you're fighting not only that boss, you're fighting all of the environment. You're fighting the grunts that come after you. You're fighting against those sound traps that we talked about, crows that come up that bring more zombies at you, those horses that are... I felt really bad about killing when I first started this game, but now I kill them instantly because I hate them. But everything has a weakness.
And they will, if you walk past birds or horses, they make so much noise alerting the people around you that you're coming. It's not funny. It's super annoying.
Yeah. And the crows is a very genius thing too, because they fly straight up. So like, people can see them from a distance. If they happen to not hear them, maybe they see them against the sky and they can head in that direction, because they know that zombies don't set off crows, only other players do. So they're going to come and follow you, find you, and, you know, try to kill you. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much to this game, and I feel like we're diving into the nitty gritty here, which I do want to do. I definitely want to do, but I want to ask you guys, what does this game do so well that makes you come back, and which parts are very promising? Like, what are the things about this game that make you say, oh, this is the reason why this game is so great, and also this is the reason why I keep coming back, and this is the reason why I'm sticking with this game, because I think it's going to get better as we go, because they are still developing it. It's not completely out of
it is a, no, it's
updates, I guess.
It's a full release game, but they are updating it.
Yeah. But it's not being... It's not early access at this point.
Right.
But what are some of the things that are so promising about the game?
Jonathan, you can go first.
I think my favorite part of the game, and I think this contributes to the game balance, is the gunplay. I think people might think that it's slow because, you know, if you empty out your 6-shooter, you have to reload all 6 bullets one at a time. It takes a while, but it makes you be more strategic about when you use that ammo and how you approach a fight. It also makes it very rewarding for accuracy. If you can hit somebody in the head, it's almost always a one-shot kill. You have to be really far away using a pretty dinky gun to not get a kill with a headshot. So if you have those reflexes and that aim, then you can put yourself in a great position from the get-go. So I think, using the sniper rifles feels so good. They make great noises. The reload animation is awesome. And then if we want to go into the traits of it, I love bullet grubber with multi-round sniper rifles, because if you pop one of those rounds out, you'll catch it in the air and reload it back into the gun. So you're not wasting any ammo like you would without the trait. So I think just the way that gunplay has been fine-tuned, made to be really rewarding and strategic, incorporating those necessary aim pieces without it being like a bullet soaky game, or needing to shoot 40 rounds to hit somebody, I think is really what makes it fun for me.
Yeah, it is not a spongy game whatsoever. It's the complete opposite, and I think that's what makes it attractive to all different kinds of players. So the professional, not professional, but the aimers, the people who are very good on mouse and keyboard, they're attracted to this game because almost everything's one hit kill to the head. And then at the flip side, shotguns are super powerful when you're up close. So people who might not be really good at aiming can still turn the tide of a fight with just one shot. So that's what excites me. But the thing that really brings me back, and you've heard me talk about this on our PUBG podcast, and you've heard me talk about it on my Tarkov podcast, is the adrenaline rush. And I truly believe that what attracts me to video games is that adrenaline rush. And this game has it, and it has it almost every single round, versus PUBG, where you only get it at the end, at the top 10 position. Or in Tarkov, I've talked about it, it's like a slow burn. But in this game, because there's so few people, and because those guns are so lethal, and you've also got the element of the environment where you're getting hit from all different angles, the adrenaline is high all the time, and you're constantly on edge. Like, you're constantly worried about your back. I don't play this game alone because it's just way more fun with friends, first off. But secondly, I don't feel safe because there's so many ways you can die in this game. So it's the adrenaline rush for me, and that's what I think is so exciting and promising about it.
Jumping off of that, I think the versatility of the game in terms of like the fear factor, the options to win, and the multiple mistakes you can make to lose. All of those things combined for me make it something that I need to come back and have more of. I really do like that this gives you a social factor as well. So I like playing third-person action adventure games by myself. I do not like playing multiplayer games by myself. I could never hop on to Call of Duty by myself and play a bunch. I never played PUBG by myself. It doesn't appeal to me. So being able to hop onto this and not just be in the middle of it all the time, it's really fun to joke around, make character voices, talk about our days, do whatever we're going to do, and then all of a sudden have to flick it on and realize that we're in the middle of a firefight, or we've unknowingly found the den of the monster that we're in, and then just being able to switch back into it. That's really, really enjoyable for me. But the thing I wanted to focus on about this is like the ways you can win and lose are almost immeasurable, because when you say you find the den, you kill the monster, you're waiting for the bounty to click down or click up to 100%. So it takes a little while once you kill the monster to take the tokens and extract. All of a sudden you realize that like you're incredibly vulnerable. Yeah. You may have just been a boss and just wrecked that guy, right?
Yeah.
But now you have to wait that everyone knows exactly where you are on the map now, because when you kill the monster, the map goes, here they are. And then when you pick up the tokens, you have 5 seconds if you pick up a token to use dark sight, and enemies who are within 150 meters or something like that are highlighted in orange, but you only have 5 seconds of this, and you want to use it sparingly because you still have to get to the extract. And then they can see exactly where you are on the map. If they go into their dark sight, there are lightning bolts that strike down kind of all over the, let's say it's like a 10-meter zone, 25-meter zone of where you are. And so you take it, you either fight those people or you leave. And if you leave to get to whatever the extract point is, which is either a small steamboat or a horse-drawn carriage, you then have a 30-second countdown to get extracted and win. And they can come up and they can kill you however they want to kill you. And if you make the wrong turn, you get trapped, you have to cross water, whatever. People can take shots at you. They can push forward and then it stops the clock. They can down your friend near it and it stops the clock. There are so many ways to lose that it makes the ways to win that much better.
I just had a thought. I don't know why it took me. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but just to
say it out loud.
Yeah, say it out loud. I realized that you are like you're finding these clues. You're actively tracking your prey, and then as soon as you down your prey and start that banishing, which goes from 0 to 100%, it has set some amount of time, like maybe 2 minutes or.
I never even thought about how many minutes it is.
Yeah,
you become the prey.
Yeah, so, like, that's awesome. I never thought of it that way.
Never thought of it that way, but it's all about this dynamic that shifts as soon as you're in control of that object that you need, that MacGuffin, basically.
Good use of MacGuffin. Yeah. John for the win.
Then you become the prey as you try and get out. You're the one who's hunted, and even though you have that advantage of being able to see these, like, you know, orangish clouds of where the player is, they can see you, as Cody said, through their dark sight, or even on the map. There's a lightning bolt that points directly to where you are. That does leave for some fun things which we have done, that if people are not playing the goal of the game, if they're not playing the bounties, if they're too busy fighting another team, you can just get out.
Yeah.
You can totally avoid fighting if you're in a bad situation.
Not without some anxiety.
Oh, totally. But we've had so many rounds, like more recently than previously, but we've had quite a few rounds where the team covers one side of the building that we're banishing this monster from, and we just go out the back door and run away, and they don't realize it until too late, and we're already extracting.
Yeah. And there are some players that don't pay attention to that map. And the map is key, because the map gives you clues, or they don't use that dark vision to see that you're going away from them or that you're slightly to the right of them. And it just makes for good gameplay, because some people are on it. Some people are using the same tips and tricks that we're using. And nobody can exploit anything all the time. You can exploit things sometimes, and it feels like you're getting away with something cool. Not like exploiting like against the rules, but exploiting like a part of the game, like
your advantage.
Yeah, using something to your advantage in this game. And it really, I don't know, it just really feels satisfying when I love it when a plan comes together. You know, like that, because you're always making things on the fly, and we're always like, do we go, do we stay, do we go, do we stay, do we go, do we stay? And then we're like, let's go. And you're literally just sprinting. It's the most dangerous game. You're just sprinting and sprinting and sprinting, and like you hope that nobody's gonna, you know, come up on you. You're always like trying to mentally count how many people you have killed and how many people could be left, and you really don't know. It's really intense.
Yeah.
So my favorite Cody moment. Sorry.
No, that's all good.
This is speaking of plans. One of my favorite moments from the game, and coincidentally was Cody rolling it through it, was we came up to, I forget which section it is, but it has a train car going through it, and this building that's 2 levels that you can see in from below. I threw a flashbang up there knowing that there were people in there. Dan rushed up, killed 2 guys up in there, and then got down by the third. The third guy threw a firebomb that Cody... Oh, and then he killed me. He killed me as I was pushing up, too. So 2 guys down from a flashbang, and then Dan murdering them. Firebomb goes down at the exit. Dan and I are both down and burning. And Cody rushes through the fire.
Oh, there's
smoke up there. Oh, because you threw a dynamite stick. So there's fire going off. Dynamite had just gone off. It was smoky everywhere. Cody pushes through the fire, is totally blinded. This dude shoots at him and miss, and Cody blasts him away and saves all of us
with like 10 HP left.
Yep.
Because I had the hand crossbow.
Yeah, you did.
You hit him, right? And then
Yep. Jesus,
that was so
yeah,
good.
man.
That was a highlight. Go to
But
our
like
stream, find the clip.
Through the Fire and Flames, I think is the name of that clip. Yeah, that was it was intense, and you have these moments of just like these bonkers plays.
And that's the thing; those happen a lot in this game, and that's what's
way
so
more than they've happened in Call of Duty, Apex, PUBG. Way more often, and they seem harder to earn, but they are happening way more often.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that those happen more is because you're not so concerned about picking your dead teammate up fast. Like, you can let them cook, you can let them sit there for a little while. Even if they're on fire, yeah, it's a little fire under your ass to try to pick them up, but it's okay that they sit there for a little while. You can do your thing, you can zone in, you can focus on how to approach the remaining enemies, take them out, then go back for your friends.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say was, in this game, I've noticed that so many times I have it in my head about exactly how something is going to work out. Like, I see the scenario, I see us like, okay, they're going to attack us from this side, and then we're going to like fight them. If we down one, we're good. We can probably pinch and push. If they don't come this way, we can just go the other way. And I zone in on like what I think is going to happen, and then that doesn't happen. And I see that all the time with other teams too that we fight. So like, we'll see a team, we can see them on the map, or, you know, with our dark sight, we can see them fan out, you know, protect all the angles for extract. They think they've got us dead to rights. Like, it's, you know, we're inside, they're outside. We have to go out to fight them. We have no other choice. But then something happens, and then that doesn't happen. Like, their plan just completely is foiled by another team coming in. We pick off one of them. Like, there's so many little moments that are like turning points in this game, and you can almost identify it in every round. You're like, that was a thing that we just did that saved us or killed us.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot. I mention it, like, when I see those things, I was like, oh, dude, if you hadn't gotten that kill, that would have been totally different. Or if, like, those crows hadn't gone off, that would have been totally different. Or
we didn't utilize those crows well enough at the beginning.
We didn't, no.
But you picked up on that pretty quickly.
There is a learning curve, for sure.
Yeah. I was going to ask what crows is a good one, but what would be your biggest tips for players in this game? Like, what's your one thing that's like, pay attention to this or do this?
My biggest tip, and I think it took us way too long to figure this out, once you unlock the sticky bombs, have one member of your squad always bring a sticky bomb, maybe even two if they happen to miss, because if you stick a boss, it'll do 75% damage in one hit, and that is massive. It's not always super hard to kill a boss, but it takes time.
When it is hard, it is almost impossible.
Especially if you're like low on bars, if you only have a max of like 75 health out of the 150, like you can't heal past 75. Like you need to be able to kill a boss quickly, and when you're shooting him, or if you're using explosives against them, people are all trying to find you. Like, everyone's trying to find that boss, so eventually they're going to find it. It's just a matter of how far in front of other teams are you. And so if you can kill it quick and get out, you're in a much better situation. So use a sticky bomb on them. Yeah.
My tip is treat the game as 3 acts of a play. The first act is finding the monster. You need to play the game differently when you're trying to find the monster. You need to be a little bit more quiet. You need to be a little bit more strategic in where you're going to move to. Once you find the monster, you need to kill the monster. You need to kill the monster efficiently and quickly, and you need to set up your parameters so that you have a good game plan for when people start to come after you, because it is a few minutes between kill and extract, or kill and picking up tokens. And then lastly, the third piece is extract, because you don't always know that you've killed everyone, and you need to make it out knowing that people are probably chasing you, and that's act 3. So if you play those games differently on each one of those acts, I think you're going to do a lot better than trying to play the same way all the way throughout.
I like that tip. That's really good, especially playing quiet in the beginning. It never works out if you're going loud and you're shooting zombies right off the bat. Once you got to
be real sneaky and real deliberate at the beginning.
Yeah. Watch those crows.
Speaking of crows, I think mine would have to be pay attention to sound. There are so many little sound cues that if you're listening and you can distinguish them, then you'll have a huge advantage. There's so many times where one of us will hear somebody dropping from, a story down, or hear them punching a zombie, or hear crows go off in the distance, or twig snap, or a horse, or any one of the number of sound cues in the game that will immediately alert us to the position of an enemy. And this is helpful when you're hunkering down, trying to finish that vanishing process, or when you're on the run and you are actively talking with your friends. If you keep one ear to the ground, basically waiting for that horse sound or those crows overhead, that can give you a huge leg up over the team that you're rolling up on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even footstep sounds, like the sound you make on a roof versus on grass, wildly different. And you can figure out where people are approaching just based on the sound. And
they just updated the teammate sounds to be slightly different. So it was part of this last update. There was a small tweak to try and help distinguish from friendly footprints or footsteps and enemy footsteps.
Nice.
I think the other thing that is like a big one is knowing the range of your weapon.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of this area. Like, it's not too big of a deal now because they kind of bumped everything up a little bit. But shotguns, especially, if you are out of range of the shotgun, it takes so many shots to kill a person.
Mm-hmm. But also, if you're too far outside, it's not that there's bullet drop, it just goes away. It's ineffective. So technically it could still hit you, and if you're outside of your damage range, it doesn't do any damage.
Yeah, I've been shot by a gun and it does like just the tiniest sliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your gun says it's got a range of 92 meters, they mean it.
Yeah, the damage drop off is real.
If you're at 93, you're not going to do almost anything to anybody.
Yep. All right.
I think the only thing that has drop off is crossbows.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the only thing that has drop off.
Yep. All right. So in sum, I want to pitch the game in a minute to you guys, 30 seconds. And if you've made it this far in the podcast, you're the real MVP. But all I want to say is, if you have played Battle Royale games and you like them, this is for you, because this is a Battle Royale and so much more on top of it, in a very unique setting with very unique traits, roles, equipment, weapons. Give it a shot. Spend the $30, whatever it is. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to see you in Discord playing. Join us on stream. Check it out to see if it's for you, because there's a lot of depth to this game, more than you might think. And I feel like we started touching on some of those more advanced tips throughout the episode. But there is a lot to learn, but at the same time, you can take it slow. Like, you don't feel like you need to dive in and research and go to Google and learn about it. Like, the only thing that I learned from Google are things like the sticky bomb and like what the bosses are as far as their weakness. You can go and read those things in the dictionary of monsters in the game. So all I want to say is just go give it a shot. Just try it out, because this is the best game that you're not playing.
Well said. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be covering different aspects of this game. We're going to be highlighting weapons, portions of the map, and the different mechanics and techniques to be successful at Hunt Showdown.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
Love it.
Join the Discord. Give us money. Love you, say it back. I feel like we're missing a part of whatever our signature sign-off used to be.
Love you. Wear a mask.